Hi, welcome to Ignite 2020. I'm Nancy Tandy, the go-to-market lead for business application here at Microsoft. Today, I would like to introduce to you one of our Power Platform experts here at Microsoft. His name is Joe Camp. Joe is one of our cloud advocates here at Microsoft and has an extensive financial services background. He will be presenting the introduction to Power Platform for us today. Welcome, Joe, and we are looking forward to this presentation.
Thanks, Nancy, and thanks everybody for joining this this session. So this is the introduction to Power Platform. Again, my name is Joe Camp. There's my social creds there, if you care to follow me. We've got a bunch of material, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of go through the agenda, and then we'll jump right in. So in this session, we're going to talk about the components of Power Platform. As we talk about those components, I'm also going to kind of touch on and then bring in business value and what that business value of the Power Platform and those components will provide for you. Then we're going to talk a little bit about some things that we'd like for you all to know, as well as we'll end the session with a list of resources that will help you on your kind of learning journey regarding Power Platform. So we're going to jump right into the text or into the content. So Microsoft Power Platform is Microsoft's low-code platform that spans across Office 365, Azure, Dynamics 365, sorry about the phone, and standalone applications. There's four main components. There's Power BI, which is the business analytics component. There's Power Apps, which is the application development component. There's Power Automate, which is process automation. And then the Power Virtual Agents, and this is the intelligent virtual agent or chatbots framework. Additionally, we're going to talk a little bit about a few things that feed data into these bigger components. We're going to talk a little bit about data connectors. We're going to talk very little, but touch on AI, and then we're going to talk about the Common Data Service. So Power BI is Microsoft's or the Power Platform business analytics service that delivers insights for analyzing data. It can share these insights through data visualization, which make reports and dashboards to enable fast and informed decisions. Power BI scales across your organization, and it has built-in governance and security, allowing businesses to focus on using data as opposed to managing it. Whether your data is a simple Microsoft Excel workbook or a collection of cloud-based and on-premises hybrid data warehouses, Power BI lets you easily connect to those data sources, clean that data, model your data without affecting the underlying sources. Then you have the ability to visualize the data, which will enable you to make very well-informed decisions regarding your business based off of this data. Power BI consists of a couple different components within itself. There's the Power BI desktop, which sits on your laptop. There's a Power BI software as a service, and then there's a mobile Power BI app that is available for phones, runs on iOS and Android devices, as well as tablets. Next, we're going to talk about the next component is Power Apps. And Power Apps is a no-code, low-code platform for building apps that builds off of some concepts that you already know, specific to Excel. And I know that a lot of people play around with Excel and the formulas and the way you're building formulas. That sort of skill set absolutely translates into building Power Apps. So you can use Power Apps to build simple solutions like vehicle inspection forms, status reports, or complex business solutions for processing purchases and inventory management. With Power Apps, you have choices on where and how your data is stored. Common data sources include the Common Data Service, which is something that we'll talk about in a few minutes, SharePoint, Dynamics 365, SQL Server, Excel Online. Additionally, you can connect your app to over 325 connected data sources. Power Apps easily supports multiple data connections, allowing you to bring data together from many platforms in a single app. Sorry about my phone going off here. Let me see if I can turn that down. Power Apps also has democratized artificial intelligence by providing a wizard-based interface for building and training models, an AI model, unlocking the power of Azure machine learning and cognitive services. These are two kind of meaty topics, and we're not going to go into them in this conversation, but there's some great content on Microsoft Learn to learn a little bit more about that. The next component is Power Automate. And Power Automate lets users create automated workflows between applications and services. It helps automate repetitive business processes such as communication, data collection, and data approvals. Not only for the individual user, but Power Automate allows for the creation of enterprise-grade process automation. Power Automate's simple interface allows every level of user to automate work tasks from beginners to seasoned developers. A couple of throw my phone away here. It's ridiculous how it's going off. A couple of things as some examples about Power Automate. You can automate repetitive tasks like moving data from one system to another, guiding a user through a process so they can complete different stages. An example of this would be the onboarding process of a new employee, going through that onboarding process, and then a purchase order approval automation. Those are just three of a lot of different types of things that you can do with Power Automate. And then the last big component is the Power Virtual Agents. And Power Virtual Agents is Microsoft's low-code, no-code bot framework. Power Virtual Agents enables anyone to create powerful chatbots using a guided no-code graphical interface without the need for data scientists nor developers. Power Virtual Agents addresses many of the major issues with chatbot building. It eliminates the gap between the subject matter experts and the development teams building chatbots. Additionally, it empowers the subject matter expert to build and maintain their own conversational solutions. An example of a pretty cool Power Virtual Agent is you have a virtual agent that you've set up where you've sourced a number of FAQ type of questions from your support staff, and this chatbot can reside on your website. A customer comes in, engages the chatbot, asks a bunch of questions. The chatbot has all these answers that have already been pre-populated, and then the customer asks a question that the chatbot's not prepared for. Well, that would trigger a Power Automate that could send a notification to a live agent, and within that notification, the conversation between the customer and the chatbot is included in that, and there's this seamless transition from the chatbot that doesn't know how to answer the question to provide all of that information to a live agent who can then support the customer. So it's a seamless transition. So it's pretty cool. Now, I touched on briefly a common data service. And the common data service is a cloud-based solution that easily structures a variety of data and business logic to support interconnected applications and processes in a secure and compliant manner. Managed and maintained by Microsoft, the Common Data Service, or CDS, is available globally but deployed geographically to comply with your potential data residency. It is not designed to stand alone. It's not designed for standalone use on your servers. A few attributes about the Common Data Service are it handles authentication with Azure Active Directory, allowing for conditional access as well as multi-factor authentication. It allows you to easily apply business logic at the data level. And as I mentioned earlier, it stores your physical data in the Azure cloud. Now, as part of this, we have data connectors, and really this is the power, no pun intended, of Power Platform, is the ability to leverage data across many platforms. To do this, components of the Power Platform use data connectors, and you can think of a data connector as a bridge from your data source to your app or workflow, which allows information to be conveyed back and forth. Connectors allow you to extend your business solutions across platforms and add functionality for your users. Power Platform has over 325 data connectors out of the box. With that said, you do have the ability to create your own custom connectors. And this will allow you to extend your app by calling a publicly available API or a custom API you're hosting on a cloud provider. The connectors work by sending information back and forth across these APIs and gathering available functions into Power Apps or Power Automate. Now, the data sources for the connectors are twofold, and this is the structure of the data for these connectors. There's a tabular data source, which is one that returns data in a structured table format. And this is kind of key for Power Apps, because Power Apps can directly read and display these tables through galleries, forms, and other controls. And galleries, forms, and controls are part of the Power Apps platform when you go in and start playing and building an app. Additionally, if the data source supports it, Power Apps can create, edit, and delete data from those data sources. So examples of these are the Common Data Service, which we just talked about, SharePoint, SharePoint Online, SQL Server, Excel, and Excel Online. Function-based data is one that uses functions to interact with the data source. Now, these functions can be used to return a table of data, but offer more extensive action, such as the ability to send an email, update permissions, or create a calendar event. Examples of function-based data include Office 365 users, so the user list within your Office 365 subscription at your company, Project Online, and if you're using Azure, you can access this through Azure Blob Storage. And so the components of a connector, there are really two components. There's triggers and there's actions. And triggers are really only used with Power Automate and are used in prompt a Power Automate flow to begin something. Triggers can be time-based, such as you want a specific flow to occur every day at a specific time, say 8 a.m. Clock hits 8 a.m. It triggers that flow to occur, and that may be something like switching data from one system to another. Or they could be based off of an action, like creating a new record in a table. Somebody creates a new record in a table, or receiving an email. Actions are used in both Power Automate and Power Apps. And actions are prompted by the user or a trigger and allow interaction with your data source by some function. An example being an action would be sending an email to your workflow or app, or writing a new line to a data source. So pulling it all together, we've talked about a number of all the different pieces and components of the Power Platform. And so now bear with me as I kind of walk through a scenario. And the scenario is this: there's a business. The business has and within the business there's an IT group, and the IT group provides a service for its employees, and that is they have inventory of equipment that employees may want to use, say, for an event. The current process, and this obviously this is all fictitious, but the current process is the employee walks down to the IT office or the IT department, says they need equipment X for this upcoming event. They have to fill out a form. They submit it to the person in the IT department. The IT department may or may not know whether that equipment is available or not. Has to stop, the individual has to stop what they're doing, go back into inventory, check and make sure they have it. Let's say they have it, they bring it back out, they hand it over to the employee. Employee walks away all happy and has now got this piece of equipment. 5 days later, and let's say that the standard checkout time for equipment is 5 days. The 6th day the employee hasn't returned the equipment. The IT person, inventory manager, is responsible for that, is now going to send out an email to the individual that has the equipment to try to pull that piece of equipment back. So very laborious and time consuming. With Power Platform, what you can do is automate a lot of that. So you can build out an app, and within that app, you can you can set up a list of all of your equipment. You can have a status of what the availability is of each piece of equipment. You can also include use instructions on how the individual or how the piece of equipment is used. And so say that it's me and I work for this company and I need to pull a piece of equipment out from my desk. I can pull up my app. I can go in and I can either on my phone or from my laptop, and I can make the request for that piece of equipment. When that happens, I click submit. That triggers an email that is sent to the IT department. The IT department has all the information, everything that I'm requesting, the day, the time, the type of equipment. They now know that they can go and pull this piece of equipment out. They send an email back to me. It says, yeah, Joe, this is great. Come by at 5 o'clock today and you can have it for 5 days. Great, go down, pick it up, come back. After 5 days, I haven't returned the email, or I haven't returned the equipment yet. Power Automate automatically sends an email to me reminding me that I need to take the equipment back to the IT department. Now all this data is being generated, and it can be that generated email or generated information can then be used within Power BI. And Power BI can build out some dashboards for you for the inventory manager that can show what equipment is being used, who's using it, how long they're being used, how long the equipment's being used. Is one department using specific equipment more than another? Based off of this data, do you need to go out and buy additional equipment? It is a great tool. As somebody who was an inventory manager, and I would have loved to have had this tool to help with budget, to help with whether I need to acquire new equipment, to also talking to managers saying, hey, you know, your folks are using the equipment longer than they need to, that sort of stuff. So it's a great, this scenario is kind of a great way to manage, in this case, inventory. So that's a real kind of simple scenario. I know there's tons and tons of different types of scenarios, but that's part of it. That's a business value that I think is pretty cool. So that's all the kind of context regarding Power Platform. What I do want to talk about now are some things that Microsoft would love for you to know. And we're going to talk about a learning path to get you to something that is called the Power Platform Fundamentals Certification. And so the learning path for Power Platform Certification, this model or this picture kind of talks through the skills for certification. Like we want to know the business value. We want you to know the business value of Power Platform, which we've talked about. the core components of Power Platform, which we've talked about, and then go into some detail about the business value of each piece, each component, Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate. The one missing component from this picture is Power Virtual Agents. And so the question is, so how do you get that, Joe? How do I learn more? And from our perspective, there's two paths you can take. The first one is a self-learning through Microsoft Learn. And Microsoft Learn has aggregated 8 different modules into a learning path that's the Microsoft Power Platform Fundamentals. And within this learning path, you'll go into some deeper detail about the different components that we've talked about for Power Platform, as well as there are some activities where you will build your own app, which is pretty cool. You'll build some Power Automate things, and then you'll build a Power BI dashboard. And this is something that I've done. I've been on this team for 2 months, and I've gone through this fundamentals course, and really, really helpful. A ton of great information. If the self-learning is something that you're not interested in and you'd rather do some sort of more instructor-led, we do have learning partners that do offer classes that prep you for the Power Platform Fundamentals. And I have links for both this slide as well as the previous slide that I'll share with you in just a second. And then the last piece is I just want to again talk about the certification, the Power Platform Fundamental Certifications, PL 900, and I have a link to that certification details that gives you a little more information. And that is this slide. And this is kind of the money slide from a learning perspective. And I encourage you to take a screenshot of this. This information will be available after this presentation. But the learning path is this URL direct link to that. The same with the instructor-led training, as well as the certification details. The last two pieces, this Power App test environment. This is an article that I wrote that walks you through how to build out a test environment for yourself using the Microsoft 365 developer program. And don't get nervous about that it's a developer program. I use this personally for my test environment, and when I'm building out apps and playing with Flow or playing with Power Automate and Power BI. It's a great tool, and it doesn't cost you anything. And then the last bullet is a reference for anyone who hasn't built a Power App. I built my very first Power App about a month ago or so, and I went back in and went screen by screen by screen by screen to show as a demo how kind of easy it is to do. So if you have some interest, go check that out. Nancy, that concludes my content. I know that you wanted to talk real quick about the Ignite Cloud Skills Challenge.
Yes, thanks, Joe. That was a great session. I wanted to give everybody a heads up about our Microsoft Ignite Cloud Skill Challenge. It is a great way for you to explore these new learning paths. We have 6 learning paths in the challenge this year. And if you complete one challenge, you will get a free certification exam. So you can go and get registered in our learning zone, and there's a URL down at the bottom of the slide. But it's a great opportunity, so take advantage of it and get a free exam. All right, Joe, we had a ton of questions, and so we've got about 5 minutes or so, and I wanted to see if you would like to answer some of those.
I will do my best to answer them.
We did have quite a few questions around Power Automate versus Logic Apps. When should they use each tool?
Ooh, so that's a great question, and to be very honest, I don't know much about Logic Apps. I will make a note, and maybe the best thing for me to do with respect to that is I could gosh, how could I share that information out? I could either share that information out through a LinkedIn post later, or I could put it on Twitter. What if I put it on Twitter and then tie it to my LinkedIn account? I think that would be okay.
I think that's great.
Okay.
All right. So I had another question. It said, great overview. Which is your favorite product of the Power Platform to use for your work?
Well, let's see. So like I said, I've been on this team for 2 months. I played around with Power BI. I think that's a lot of fun. I've played around a little bit with Power Automate. I played a lot more with Power Apps. And as somebody that considers himself not a dev person, the fact that I'm able to build an app kind of makes me feel like a dev. And it was really cool. Like, you know, in my last role, I did inventory management type of stuff, and I would have loved to have had the app that I recently built as part of this demo that would have helped a ton in my last role. So I think out of all of them, just from a pure satisfaction perspective, the Power Apps would be top on my list right now, just because I played with it the most. But the others, you know, it just kind of depends on who you talk to. But for me, it's been Power Apps.
Great, great. So I have another question for you. Can you access data in other Microsoft products, such as Intune or Azure DevOps, within Power BI, and as a result, Power Apps?
I think you can. I think so. There's I referenced this 325 data connectors in one of the initial slides, and I believe what you can do is you can go to MS Docs or Microsoft Documentation, look through Power Apps, and there is a list of all 325 data connectors in Microsoft Documentation. So I believe the answer to the question is I believe that you can, but I think you can whoever asked the question, you can validate it by going into Microsoft Docs, and the answer should be in there.
Okay. All right. I think we've got time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Can you create a Power BI report from a SharePoint list?
Yes, I think you can. Yes.
Okay. Great, great. All right, we've probably got 1 more question. Can a custom Power App looking up contract values from a SharePoint Excel file be embedded on a SharePoint page? That's a tough one.
Wow. Can you read that again? Can a
custom Power App looking up contract values from a SharePoint Excel file be embedded on a SharePoint page?
I don't think so. I don't think you can.
Okay.
If you can, if I can have that question sent to me, and so I can look it up, and I'll see if I can answer that question again in LinkedIn. Yeah, link in a LinkedIn as well, and or Twitter.
Great.
That's a great question.
Yeah, we had some really great questions, so I don't know if we got to all of them, but we had a lot. That's all the time we have today for Q&A. On behalf of Joe and myself, we'd like to thank you for joining us, and we hope that you have a great Ignite 2020.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.